Hello, everyone. It's been a long time. But if you watch my channel, you know that that is probably par for the course. It's been busy, and my job certainly gets busier after September, October, and I kind of go into fast mode. And there's been some home things, of course, and I can name you about 1,000 excuses. But I'm back, and I'm back mainly because of a couple of things. One is because a couple of new subscribers have come to the channel, and when I see a couple of people who are interested, I respond and say, well, I better get back to it. So here I am, and today we're going to talk about Vaesen and my after school program here locally. It's right literally across the street. It's probably about 25 meters away, to be honest. And the school is there. I live in a small rural slash isolated community. And like many kinds of North American communities that were established in the late 1800s, you have a particular corner where there's a church and there's a school and there's a convenience store. My French is showing where I have to think because I was going to call it a dépanneur. So anyway, so that this is where I am. I'm right on the corner of this massive metropolis, and so it's easy for me to get over to the school. And I thought to myself before COVID that I would like to kind of offer the young people an experience of learning how to play role-playing games. It's one thing to see it online. It's another thing to actually be with somebody and somebody with experience. And I do bring a lot of experience to the table. And I've spent a long time watching various videos and various gameplays on Twitch and on YouTube. And I thought, let's share this knowledge. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm sharing the knowledge with the kids. And COVID came to an abrupt stop. We were right in the middle of the campaign. And so 2 years on, or yeah, 2 years on, now the kids are older. Some have left and gone to high school. And my youngest group is now going into they're in grade 8, going into grade 9. And so there's been a significant change. And I ran 5e before, and it was very much a hack and slash. And even though I was trying to gear it more toward different areas so that they could use different aspects of a whole bunch of kind of, mystery and all that, I came to the conclusion over those 2 years that I much prefer Free League as a publisher and as game design. I love the Mutant Year Zero engine, and I think that it's, for myself at this time in my life, the best system for me. And I love the various different products that Free League puts out, and you'll see them there in various ways. But you'll also see stuff like Stars Without Number, a lot of Kevin Crawford stuff. And if you can even read it, right over here, there's Nibiru. And so, private stuff. And I bought, of course, the Ironsworn stuff. I'm waiting for Starforge. It should be in the mail any time now. And of course, you can see various other things that I have there, including, and I just want to make mention of this because, just briefly, I haven't reached 5 minutes yet. Right there, you'll see the Solo Gamers guide. And this is by a wonderful woman who called Geek Gamers, and she has an excellent channel, does solo stuff. I can't recommend her enough. So Geek Gamers, I bought the book, and I'm very, very happy that I own it. And as I've said many, many times in previous videos, having a hard copy, to me, shows a kind of pride in in the system. Just having the PDFs, you know, I've got tons of CDs, I've got tons of mixtapes, and I literally don't have anything to play them on any longer. My Mac doesn't have a CD player, or a DVD player. I don't have a DVD player. I guess my kids have something with a PlayStation or whatever, but I really don't have a way of playing any mixtapes or anything like that. So I know that yes, I know that there are ways to do this, but it just shows that media changes so fast that who the heck knows what's going to happen in 10 years. So I like having a hard covered book to show not only pride but also longevity. Books are much are they will stay around. So this is about gear and what I bring to my Vaesen group. And so I have two groups of four. One plays on Tuesday and one plays on Thursday. I only have an hour and a half to work with. So basically from around 2:30 until 4. With one group, it's a little bit before 4 because of the late bus. And that's because that particular child has to take a late bus. The other ones have their parents come and get them. And I think that that's absolutely wonderful. So two groups of 4. The Tuesday group is playing... the Tuesday group is playing Summer in December by Matthew from the Effect podcast. And so Matthew has created this wonderful PDF, and it's been absolutely a joy to play with the Tuesday group. They are the older group; they're all boys, and it is quite a good group, and they've been really thinking a lot. My next videos, I'm going to do 2 others in this kind of series, and the next one is going to be talking about the groups and how they've progressed and what they've done and stuff like this. This is kind of like an overview of what I bring to school and how you can make it easier on yourself to kind of, what do I need to bring? What do I need in terms of stuff? And also, what can help me as a GM for a Mutant Year Zero, or actually any system? You can do this. So this is my stuff for these groups. The other group, the Thursday group, which was way ahead of the Tuesday group, is doing The Witch Cat Inn, which is in the core book. I didn't want them to do the same things. The Thursday group is ever so slightly younger. There's 2 young ladies who are part of that group. And so I know that with the Tuesday group, 3 of them will be graduating. And I know that in the Thursday group, I have another year or 2 with them. And I wanted them to be able to talk about their adventures like at lunchtime and in class and after school or however, so that they're not kind of cheating by comparing notes of where they are in the campaign. So Witch Cat Inn for both groups wouldn't work, I didn't believe, because they're bound to talk to each other about what they've discovered and stuff like that. So one group is Witch Cat Inn, the other group is Summer in December, and I will continue that. So I will explain where they are, how we processed, what the process was of getting them in. Now I'm going to show you what I bring, and don't get intimidated. So this is my bag that I bring over to school. Now, it's 25 meters away. So it's not terrible, but you may look at it and say, this is terrible. This is what I bring. So, I'm going to show you what I've gotten here. And you may say, oh my gosh, Reluctant Artsy, that is excessive. Well, the first thing I have is I have one of these rolling dice things. Now, we have a school table. We play in the library. They're all windows, so I like that. It's just something that I feel safe with. The school feels safe with. The principal and the cleaners, teachers are still around after school, but I like having that visibility so that everybody can see. I think that that's really, really important. We played in the cafeteria last week because there was a scholastic fair going on in the library, and so I reluctantly played in the cafeteria, but the doors were open and the office could see within. So that's just something to consider if you're thinking about starting an after-school program. So you can find these online. I'm not going to do the research for you, and I'm not going to show you where, but this is great. It just rolls out flat. It's very simple. I'm not a crazy roller, so I'm not going to be rolling things all over the place. Nothing is going to be flying everywhere when I roll. Now, inside the zip, you can see that I have a combination of Vaesen dice, and I have very expensive, because I didn't buy them at the time, so these cost me a fortune. If you are a Free League follower, you will know that these are the One Ring dice from the previous edition of the One Ring. And I find these to be the clearest, best six-sided dice. So when I roll, I like to roll these as being the first number and the Vaesen dice as being the second number when I'm rolling a D66. I have a whole whack load of them here, and if you would have told me even 2 years ago that I would be buying six-sided dice, I would have said, you are insane. I can pick up six-sided dice for nothing. I've got tons of six-sided dice. And why would I spend what is the equivalent of $26 or $22, depending on where you shop, Canadian, for dice? Well, boy, do I have dice. You can see that I have, these are my kind of weird dice, all different shapes, location dice, temperament dice. You'll see that I have weather dice from Amazon here, and up top I have Coriolis dice. Down here I have dice from Tales from the Loop. I have alien dice. And then I have one of the largest groups of dice over here, which is the dice from Forbidden Lands. Actually, I think Forbidden Lands dice and the dice above, which are all One Ring dice. I have tons of them. You'll see that there are some in little plastic. That's because those are the replacement dice. Thank you very much. And then above that, I have some more different dice up there, One Ring, and also some dice from Vaesen. Now, I store the Vaesen dice for the kids in this, so I have something separate. I count them out beforehand. I trust my kids, but I trust them as far as I could throw them, so I always like to have a count of the dice so that I have them count them out afterwards, just so that I make sure that I've got them all. They're very expensive, and also it just teaches them that they've got to be responsible for their dice during the game. I also have, in my little bag, I have 4 players. I have 4 quick dice trays. Kids, no matter if they're 14, 13, 12, especially younger, they're going to toss those dice like they're a baseball. So I like to teach them young that use a dice tray, respect your dice tray. If you throw the dice too hard and they bounce out, I'll give you a chance. But if you roll on the floor, or it rolls so hard that it goes on the floor, you reduce a dice, and that's what I do. And I know it's cruel, but come on, you're when you're with the kids, youth, you have to make sure that there are limits. The biggest problem that I have with the young people is there's a couch, there's a couple of couches in the library, and they just like to flop all over them. There's another kind of backless circular seats that they can sit on, and they try to get away. Every session, somebody tries to get away with sitting on that instead of at the table. A number of the children have some element of a learning disability or some type of a characteristic that affects them and affects those around. And so I always have to kind of keep the group focused, and when they're kind of slouching around and laying back and all that stuff, it can be a distraction, and also they can miss some key elements. Next in my bag are the Vaesen cards. I find the Vaesen cards extremely helpful. I know I could roll dice, I could roll 10-siders or something like that. But visually, this is great. Now, I've got a wonderful story about this. This fell out of my pocket on a Thursday. I didn't know. I didn't realize. I thought I had packed it in this massive bag. Didn't think anything of it. Went into school on the Tuesday, and one of the players kind of came up to me with this, and I was like, "Why do you have that?" He said, "It's been on the floor. Nobody took it. All the cards are still here." This was like all day Friday, all day Monday. And they were on the floor in the hall. Nobody picked them up. And they were all intact and they were all still there. Amazing. What great kids. What a great school. So, I have also in this bag, and this is what takes up the most, I have Vaesen, the core book. Now, you might think to yourself, well, that's kind of dumb. It's, of course you'd have a core book. I have a core book, and I have another, and another, and another, and another. And what this does is it allows each child to have a book. And it allows me to have a book. Now, you can see on that side that I have a lot of different Vaesen things. I have Eckerkran's books right there, and I have a lot of different Vaesen books. I just want to thank Free League. I want to thank Thomas. I want to thank them for their kindness and the fact that they care about the company. They care about just being great as a company, and I'm just overjoyed. And these books allow the kids to have that kind of that feeling of they're part of the game, and even though they don't use them as often as I would like them to, they do. They're now getting used to looking up things, and so that's awesome. Now, the last thing that is for kind of gear is always bring pencils. Don't assume that your kids have pencils. Don't assume that. That's just, no, don't. I always have an eraser, because sometimes the erasers don't necessarily do a clean job, so I always have my trusty Staedtler eraser. Now, no, they didn't pay me for this, but, and actually, I'm doing this literally as I think about it. This is a studio pencil sharpener. It's garbage. So I'm now going to put in my Staedtler, which I know works well, inside. Don't leave home without your COVID kit. So anyway, these are kind of the tools of the trade. Don't neglect and don't think that it's not important to have pencils. The kids need to mark up their conditions. They need to mark up everything. And this just having it in something easy, you can either have a pencil bag or something like that. Don't put it in with your dice, because then you'll scratch up all your dice with the lead, and then if you're like me in OCD, you'll be like rubbing your dice trying to clean them up. So have something separate for that. So that's pretty much it when it comes to kind of the main stuff that I bring around. And then I have three other things that I add in to this major. Now, I have one of these, but I don't use it. And you might say, well, why not? Because I can store my dice in that Rolly one, and it just makes life easy. Now, this is not specific to Free League. Any of these type of sources can be used for 5e. They can be used for anything. Call of Cthulhu. You can use this type of... Just make sure that you're prepared for your kids to not be prepared. Then I have four other things that I bring. Now, we are in a rural community, and internet, we just got fiber op not that long ago. We had Starlink for a little bit of time, and it's great if you don't have anything else, but nothing can beat fiber optics. So that's great here in the house, but when I'm over at the school, there are some cellular dead spots. So I actually have to get my phone, put it in a window, because I can't get it 2 or 3 meters inside the room. So I have to put that, and then I run my pad or tablet, whatever you want to call it, and I have something up on this all the time. First of all, I have my game, and again, I'll kind of show you next time, but I want to just bring it up, if I could bring it up quickly. So Vaesen, actually, let's get Summer in December. Okay, so here's page 11 of Summer in December. I don't know if this is going to show quite well, but you'll see, and I'm dyslexic, I can't write, I can't spell. It's amazing I have a master's degree. So I have all this, and so there, of course, is that, but I have it marked down, and I've read it about, 10 times to make sure that I know what I'm doing, and so that I have everything marked, and I know in advance what to have. So having my iPad, I have the rules. Sometimes it's quick and I do a search for a name. Sometimes I use the book because I find that that's easier. If you have a tablet, bring the tablet to school, or bring the tablet, even if it's just for your adventure itself, so that you can quickly move through. I do take notes. I do have an Apple Pen that I use with another program that I just do scratchy notes with, and I do have them side by side, so that I have a note-taking area, and then I have the majority of the area, which is just basically the adventure itself. So that, I think, is absolutely key. Now, I have two different, and I know it's stupid for me to have the same color. I have two different clear kind of, these are the two groups. So I know that this group is the Thursday group because this one has the name of of one of the characters. I like to have it clear so that I can quickly look down skills, so that I don't have to kind of trouble myself if I go brain dead and I can't think of the skills. At least this will give me some clarity. And inside, I have the Witch Cat Inn. I have things that I can pass out. I have them already pre-prepared. I have the map. I have, everything ready. So this is the Thursday group. And what I've done is I've taken their pages. I've typed them out from what they wrote. And they're responsible for keeping their conditions in check and stuff like that. But I also have included the equipment list so that they know what they can buy and the cost. I've also put in the skills so that they can quickly reference the skills. Now, I know that they have the books, but sometimes, especially with the skills, it's better for them to be able to quickly access them and say, okay, I've done this with combat, this is what I want to do. We haven't really got into combat yet, and so that will come up next time, where I probably am going to provide them with slow and fast actions so that they're fully aware, and maybe I might use the book. So I have two different things. The other group, again, I have the map of the village. I know exactly where they are because we've got them. And when I start talking about what's going on outside at this moment in their gameplay, you're going to laugh your backsides off. So these are kind of my two main things. I bring them to the different groups when I have those groups, and they're in my big bag as well. The second final thing, and we're going to look at this a little bit today. Actually, I think we'll look at it a bit longer, but I have a few things in a clipboard. So the things that I have in my clipboard are... I really should just copy the questions for experience points, because mainly at this point, that's all that I've needed to look up. There are fast actions and slow actions here. There is medical care. I always buy the screen. I never use it as a screen. I always roll in front of the kids. I just think that it's a bad practice to hide dice from the kids. Let them understand that the dice are the dice, and if they die, they die, and if they don't, they don't. And actually, it's more fun for them to know what I'm doing than for any mystery. They don't need to know mystery at this point, and not in that way. So I just fold it up, and I flip it around and stuff. So this is in my clipboard. I know that probably I'm degrading its value, but I don't care. I do have my own list of skills that I can quickly refer to without going to the book. And then I have a map of Uppsala, which I think is just really cool and important for reference when they're there. At the moment, they're not in Uppsala. So, this is... Well, actually, before I get to this, you're going to say, why do you have this? Coriolis. There are going to be days when you have, out of the 4 kids, you have 3 kids. Well, you can keep on playing. You can say, I've done this a couple of times. The other person now is in the bathroom, and they're having diarrhea. And the kids just love this, okay? They have a great time. Or one day, the person had missed, they thought that the person had missed the train to December, and so what I did is when they came back, I just made them think on the day that they had missed the person, and so I had the person roll a stealth roll. They just happened to be exceedingly stealthy, and they just popped up and were there, and so I was like, where were you? What were you doing? And then he was just stealthy. So anyway, but when you get a group of 4 and you miss 2, You miss half the group, there is absolutely no point playing the game. And I know you might say, yes, yes, you can make it work. No, you can't. It's not fair. It's not fun. With 3, you can manage. With 4, you cannot. And just as an aside, I don't take attendance. If I were playing with adults or I was playing at a group outside of an after-school program, so say a youth group type of scenario where we're playing somewhere else outside of the school, then yes, I would I would reward them for attendance, or I would punish them for not attending. The reason for the distinction is that in the school setting, they may be sick in the morning. They may have shown some signs of flu or illness or respiratory things. How can I punish them for not going to school and then not coming to an after-school program? That's foolish. For another type of group where I'm setting my time aside and having something kind of sponsored by some other organization, or myself for that matter, I don't want kids to just think, oh, well, I don't need to show up. I ran a summer program last summer, maybe the summer before, and I was doing Professor Dungeon Master's Deathbringer with the kids. Very OSR, very hardcore. You're gonna die. You got 4 hit points, and they're slamming with a D8. So, you know, and the kids enjoyed it, but I didn't get the retention. If I were doing some type of Mutant Year Zero type of experience points based on attendance and other role involvement, then yes, I would say, hey, unless you've got a real excuse, you know, if you just blew us off or you didn't bother to warn me or tell me in advance, then you don't get the experience point. It is what it is. So when we do have half of the group, what I've been doing is I've been getting them to roll up Coriolis characters. Well, there's pros and cons to this. One is, as soon as they started seeing Coriolis and the books and the ships, they lost their ships. They were blown away, and I was really worried that I was going to lose them for Vaesen. But even though they're excited to play Coriolis, my intention is next year to play Coriolis with them, or play it in the summer as kind of a youth group or one of those type of experiences. So that's my hope, is that when we do have only 2 people. Now, it's funny, I've got 3 characters from one group because one of the young women thought that she couldn't make it for the game, wasn't there for about 5 minutes. We had already started up, and then she showed up. And so we just went ahead and continued to roll up characters. I just want to say, if you're not used to the Mutant Year Zero engine, or you're not used to the difference between Vaesen and Coriolis, they found it the smoothest of transitions. And I think that we as adults kind of overthink everything. And so we think, oh, well, it's so very different. But with the kids or the youth, they didn't have any barriers to understanding how it worked. And the difference between darkness points and having hit points, and with Vaesen having conditions, they made that transition very easily, understanding the difference. Now, we haven't played Coriolis, but it's nice to have something completely different that they can roll up a character, and you can do it over time at your leisure when the group is not full. And I mean half. 3/4, you can do it. So if you have 5 kids, I would say if you're down to 2, absolutely roll up a character for another system. If you have three, consider it, because you've got to be able to work out. And Vaesen is very much, people can do different things, so the party can split. That's not a big deal. You may be able to make it make sense, and I'll explain this in another video when I start talking about the Tuesday group and what happened with them. But just be careful, is my only advice. Now, I am going to show you this, and this is, if you're still with me, this is probably the most important part of this video, and I'm going to put it up on the screen. So, boom. There we go. Now, I want you all to know that what I've got is I've got the names of the people. I've got the names of, so just on top of that, I have the names of the people who are playing. And I've made this, I use Macs, sorry for you who are Windows users, but I've used numbers to create this. I spent a fair amount of time, but it wasn't arduous. It wasn't a big issue. So, I don't know how to point. I don't. Is that going to work? Wait. No, that's not going to work. I don't know what I did. Okay, well, I won't be able to point, so you're just going to have to use your brains. So, you'll see that I have the Thursday group first and the Tuesday group second. And that's intentional. The Thursday group started before the Tuesday group, and so I've marked them down. So you'll see that we've got a title, a name, and then we've got archetype, motivation, trauma, and dark secret. And I have them just regular old gray and white, just so that I can distinguish. So I have bolded their names. I've marked down their ages next to their names so that I have a good idea of the ages. So we've got a countess. We've got a madam who is a kind of crystal ball soothsayer. We've got a professor, and we've got a butler. Now, the butler originally started off as being a vagabond. And when I started kind of talking to him that he's a street person, that, he had to steal for a living, he immediately, and God bless this young man, said, "Oh, I don't want to steal." And I thought, wow, he's not thinking imaginatively. He doesn't want to be this thief. He wants to be an honorable person. So I said, okay, what we're going to do, because we had played 2 sessions at that point, I said, all right, so, but it was basically kind of more like a zero, session 0, session 0B. And so they hadn't met they had met Linnea at that point. So what I did is I said the countess, who is the shyest girl in the school, and this very kind of sure of himself but not sure of himself young man, who has a tendency of getting into trouble a bit in school. He's the butler of the countess. So I said because they were talking about, well, what's the relationship that you guys have? How are you? That you go through and you say, well, what's the relationship like? Well, as you can see, and you have to look across, okay? So I've got the countess here in dark blue, and you'll see that with the madam, I wonder if I could do this. No, I can't, because it's too big. So the first one is the madam. Second one, I should remember this. So with the madam, she was useful. She helped her. She looks at the professor as being smart, and they met at an occasion. So the first thing is, what is their thoughts of the person? The second thing is, how did they meet? So the madam helped her with a medical issue. the teacher, the professor, is smart, and they met at an occasion. She is a countess, and he is a professor at the university in Uppsala. So why not get together at an occasion? And I said that it was a dance. The last person is the vagabond slash butler. The countess trusts him and made them the butler. So that just helps me. And then you'll see that the madam is jealous, healed. So I have these sections so that I can look across, and when we're playing C, or when I'm doing kind of the questions of experience points, I can look down and see if they've used their character appropriately, given the situation. So you'll see that that the Countess is named Alice Villiers. She's 19, socialite. She wants, her motivation is to protect her estate. She was attacked by a ghost, and she's an illegitimate heir. And I have this section called Effects of the Above, because I want to see how is this going to affect the character. And this is a GM note. So she feels guilt when in high society because she doesn't, she's very pretentious, and yet inside she doesn't feel that strength, which kind of suits the person who's playing the character. But when I start talking about the Thursday group in an upcoming video, oh my gosh. So the madam, she's an occultist. She's affected, her motivation is affected by a raven, and she was attacked by this raven. And she said, my powers control me. And so how do I mechanically work that in? Well, she does a fear observation tests, and she sees the dead. So this is a way, remember, now with adults, I think that you may not need the effects of the above, you might. But with adults, they're going to be more intuitive about how to play out their character, and they're able to create their own consequences. Younger people are... imaginative play with something of our generation, we needed to do it because we didn't have PlayStation, we didn't have Xbox, and we didn't have the computer, we didn't have YouTube or Netflix or all of these other things. And so we lived with imagination constantly. We would watch a TV show and, Magnum PI, and then we'd go out and we'd be private investigators as we wandered around the city on our own as 11 and 10-year-olds. That's just the way life was then. So I give a little bit more information. So you'll see that the professor, again, it's observation versus manipulation, or he moves toward the Vaesen because he's addicted to Vaesen. He was aged by a mermaid. So actually, he's a 31-year-old and not a 41-year-old. And so charting unknown, I need to clarify that because I can't think of what that is in my so again, these are notes to myself. The kids don't see this, just to help me out. And then the butler, of course, you've got the vagabond. He wants to be liked. He saw a revenant rise, and Vaesen kill the ones he loves. And so he will interpret an attack on Alice. So anytime he sees a Vaesen, he will be protecting her because he believes that anybody he cares about is going to get killed. He's got a hunting dog. I pumped him up with some experience points at the very beginning, or no, money at the very beginning of the game. I think he went up to the hunting dog. Everybody wanted a pet. Oh, pets and kids. They all want to have their own companions. So anyway, so the Countess has a homing pigeon. They didn't understand what a homing pigeon was. So she's got a cage. The Madam's got a cage and a falcon. So investigate is +1. Close combat is +2. The funny thing is that all of their pets now are like in their rooms, in cages. The butler's dog is not with the butler. He's actually in the stables with the dance of dreams. So I mean, it. I just think that it's kind of funny that the Siren and the Witch Cat Inn is in the stable and not with them because Sammy will not allow dogs in the inn. So, and then, of course, here I've got investigation, vigor, and or vigilance and close combat as the benefits +3 with that. And then you'll see, if you move over, you'll see that we have a doctor, we have a captain, and then we have blank blank. So Jack Grace is an Englishman. He's a footballer. He's come across from England. He was a star in England and now is trying to establish a football team in Uppsala. And he's a game fixer. And he lost a fairy bet. So he came up with this. A Vaesen is after his family. Which I just think is great. You've got James Blood, who is Irish. He's a hunter. He wants to avenge his mother. His mom was burned by Vaesen. He was switched at birth. He is a Vaesen who is a church grim in human form. He's kind of like my lazy guy as a person. He's the one who's constantly flopping down on the sofas, but also at the same time, he comes up with these amazing ideas. He came up with the idea just above my head here. You'll see the silver-tipped shillelagh. He came up with this idea of having a shillelagh and having it silver-tipped that came from his father, who was a church grim himself. And so anyway, So I've got all of these numbers, and I just want you to be aware that I've got all of these numbers. And then what I do is, after I have that initial section, I've got a different color, which gives me the physical, the precision, the logic, and the empathy, and I can quickly look at them. I know that it's redundant to have two kind of levels. Actually, this isn't the right one. Oh my goodness. Now, I wonder... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my face. And I'm going to go back because that's not the right... let's see if I can open recent. I wonder if it's this one. No, it's not that one. And I'm just going to double check. Hold on. It's funny. Okay, so I'm going to open something. Ha 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 ha. I am a very naughty person. All right, let me get this off. And let's see if I can get it up now. Yeah, there we go. Oh, all right. So I'm going to close this down and just put this over. And close that off, and let us see if I can just get this back. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause and come back. Okay, so we're back. And I had fooled around with my sheet so much that... Okay, so this is the sheet that I am using currently, and then all of a sudden I realized I updated it a lot. And so I'm just going to bring back what I have. So here it is. So the colors are a little more impactful. It still has the same amount of information, but you'll see that I have here logic and empathy in blue. And the reason why I have them in blue is for fear tests. Just to remind me, this is what they're using for the fear test. Now, I was talking about the redundancy of having, the physique, the precision, the logic, and the empathy. No longer is it abbreviated. I've actually stretched it out and gotten rid of some columns. So what I've done here is, if you look down to, say, agility or close combat, if you look at at the Countess's numbers, you'll see that it's 3 and then there's zeros across the board. But if we look at medicine, she's got a 4 and a 1. So you'll see that that 4 comes from her precision. It just enables me, if they're stuck, that I could give them their numbers right away. And I just find that with the Mutant Year Zero system, it is much better to move the game along quickly. And if they can't do the math right away, they're learning. Don't expect them within the first even 5 or 6 sessions, especially if your after school program is only an hour and a half long, to be able to automatically do the math. And we think that it makes sense. You just look above and you look below and you add those two numbers together. It's not that simple. It's like D&D. D&D is a wonderful game, but if you're rolling, you have to do the math. You have to do the modifiers. And yes, that's wonderful, and everybody should be able to do it. But for somebody who's young, and especially for young people who do have a tendency, who go into role playing as younger people, who are not kind of, say, the stereotypical jocks or the stereotypical girly girls or the stereotypical anything. And remember, those are stereotypes. They have nothing to do with what I believe. Everybody is different. But the tendency from my experience at this particular school is usually the ones who want to play are the ones who have dyslexia, the ones who have Asperger's, the ones who stutter or have a speech impediment, the ones who have epilepsy, the ones who have ADHD. They're very imaginative. They're very creative, but they're not really the people in the classes who are the superstars. And the two that I would say would be classified in that area are probably two of the most fragile people I have met from a kind of pastoral therapeutic assessment point of view. They come across as larger as life, but they're actually very timid and very shy within themselves, very insecure. So I don't want to put added pressure to, like, do the math, do the math, do the math. Why can't you get this -1 in your head and all this stuff? This is a simple system. You're rolling a d6, you take away a 6, you add a 6, you get a 6, you're done. When the kids start rattling off, well, I got a 1 and a 5, don't tell me about that. I don't need to know that. Just tell me the 6, please. So you'll see that I did include wealthy. I've used, that she's the madam is a medium with observation. I've got the bookworm at +2 for clues. I've got tough as nails and +2 for force. I need to remember that actually more often. When I talk about the game. You'll get it. And then the doctor, of course, has emergency medicine, ignores conditions, which is a good thing. Tactician, famous, Mark's person, James Blood. And so I these are clues for me as a GM. I have the sheet of paper in front of me, but at the same time. And actually, I remember that I updated it after I did the last session on Tuesday last week. Thursday was canceled. So I've also got a very clear wound schedule. I just know that the first is exhausted, battered, wounded, angry, frightened, hopeless. I know that some people do it in order. I kind of make it situational so that one of the people fell from trying to climb up. And when this person fell, I didn't say that they were exhausted. I said they were battered instead of going to exhausted right away. And this just gives me kind of an indication. And then I have terrified. So flee, freeze, and faint. So I can mark that down just with my pencil. So it gives me quick kind of, all of these just help me. And I've used, like, when a memento is used to heal a condition, the kids keep on forgetting that. I keep on forgetting it. I can say, okay, you've used that worn bone dice because I've clicked it off. Or the advantage. All of them have chosen these for this adventure. And so this just makes it so much easier. And I highlighted the dark secret because I found that I needed to be aware of their dark secret much more, especially given that they may be, and none of the other characters around the table know the individual dark secrets or traumas of the others, except for the madam who knows the butlers because he went for a reading, and that's how he met her. He went for a reading, and she told him about his trauma with the mermaid. Okay, so these are just little things, and you'll see that I've got here the resources. It's really important to give yourself an understanding of what the pluses are when you're negotiating. So I just know that +2 is negotiation, or the +1 is negotiation. The brackets give me an indication of how much money they have left after they've spent their initial money before setting off. And so I know here, oh, I didn't mark it down. I've got it on some sheet. Well, I'll have to go and check it again. But I know how many experience points. I know who's wearing a cross, especially for the Thursday group. I know if they've got a cross underneath their jacket or over it. Just little kind of things like that that may come into play. They may not remember, they may remember, but at the moment they're just learning the system. So I find this a great help. I find this easy peasy to kind of be able to check off with my pencil. I don't use my computer for it, or my tablet, because I just find that what's the point? Like I'm going to be, I hate wasting time with computer things. If we're going to play the game, I'm going to play the game, and we're going to play the game. We're not going to be busy looking up stuff and spending time with rules. If I want to do that, let's play 5e. I really appreciate Garblag Games. I've become more involved in the community with Garblag Games, and I do commend them to you. And also the Effect Podcast. I'm Patreoning both at the moment. I'm able at the moment to Patreon both. And I really enjoy their Discord communities. I think that they're good communities. They're helpful. But both of these playthroughs that they have, the Effect Podcast is different in a way than what Garblag Games does, and yet they have a lot of crossovers with individuals and stuff. But I find that the games that I'm watching, and at the moment I'm currently watching a lot of Coriolis. I'm watching actually all of Coriolis with Millie the GM, and I find it absolutely captivating. That it's not over the top role playing, which I hate. And it's fun because it feels like you're around the table, even though they're not. They're online. And I enjoy that they're not referring to Twitch people, because they do it live on Twitch and then they throw it up on YouTube. Sometimes people will overdo it on, oh, hi, Jeff, haven't seen you for a long time, and in the middle of the game, or thanks for sponsoring because they've given some donation or something like that. I just don't like that breakup where you're taking away from the game and interrupting with the mechanisms. And for me, to not have this version up and having to pause has driven me nuts. So this just is to give you some idea, some insight as to how I prepare beforehand with a specific group, which are youth, and with a specific time limit, which is an after school program. So I hope that this has been helpful. We're a little over an hour, just seconds over an hour. Stay tuned for my next broadcast where we'll look at the individual groups, the two different groups, and where they're at, what they've done, and how their gameplay has come about. And I hope that that's as entertaining for you as it is for me as their GM. So anyway, take care. I hope that this has been helpful, and I'll see you the next time. Let's make me big. Bye.